Welcome. It's nice to see you all here. My name is Joe Seamus. I am given the privilege of serving as your advocate this evening. Before I get to the announcements, I'd like to take I want to take a few minutes to honor a very special person. I can't swallow this shit. Wonderful person, I think. How do you turn it off? Now, can you hear me better? A bit better?
Yes.
Okay. I want to honor a very special person. 17 years ago, Apponequet's most famous coach called a number of the school's retired and active staff members together to form and organize his brainchild, the Apponequet Hall of Fame. During these past 17 years, a host of Apponequet's athletic standouts have been honored. Thanks to Peter Looney's efforts, leadership, organizational skills, and enthusiasm, this Hall of Fame flourishes today. Peter passed away on December 23rd, 2011. We think of him often. To honor his memory, I ask that we observe a moment of silence. Thank you very much. I'm sure Peter appreciates it. A couple of announcements, just some housekeeping things. The bar will be closed immediately after dinner and will reopen at the conclusion of the ceremonies. All are welcome to remain after and chat and reminisce and kind of cement their relationship as classmates on past. We welcome nominations for next year's Hall of Fame. Nomination forms are available at each table. Anyone wishing to participate in meetings conducted by the Hall of Fame Committee may contact any member of the Hall of Fame Committee and they will address your concerns or desires. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Dennis Tebow, who has a few announcements to make concerning the raffle.
Started teaching at Apponequet in 1959. I was a sophomore then, dating myself, but so be it. At the end of the evening, those of you that purchased a ticket, Piazecki, put your number in the basket, and we will pick out an envelope, call your number. If you win, you come up, get your prize, anything from tickets to restaurants, golf outings, etc. And at the end of the evening, we have 3 special gifts that we're going to have an auction for that you can bid on. One is an outing at LeBaron Golf Course, and one is a fire pit for your backyard donated by Del Rocco Landscaping. Tim was an athlete at Apponequet. And we have an autographed Bruins shirt from Karen Wiedemeyer, Karen Kelly, who was autographed by this year's Bruins team. Unfortunately, they're not playing right now. Whenever they do play, you'd have a shirt that would have all their names on it. So at the end of the evening, and if you haven't bought a raffle ticket, you can see any one of us. The money for the raffle ticket just goes to perpetuate this evening. So is dinner ready?
Joe's coming back up.
Coming back up?
I'll get it.
You want some help?
At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the Hall of Fame Committee, a hard-working group indeed. Mr. Kurt Paradise, Mr. Robert Rodigo, what's his name? Dennis Tebow. Mr. Scott Brady, who, by the way, is preparing his meal. Around selling raffle tickets. This is Bonnie Soers. And the chairman of the board, Mr. James. And I'd like to just recognize some special guests, Mr. Warrington. Mr. John Franzalia Sr. John Franzalia Jr. Mr. Bob Silver. And would you please join me in the blessing? We thank our Heavenly Father for giving us this special evening, allowing friends and relatives of our inductees to gather together to honor 6 extraordinary people who have distinguished themselves on the field of athletics, and a gracious lady who has dedicated many years of service in active support of Apponequet athletics and school activities. May your loving hand always rest on their shoulders. Amen. Bon appetit.
Tonight it's Dave Gizecki's birthday, and we can't let him go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dave. Happy birthday to you.
All get home safely before the year changes. And I ask each presenter to come up to the podium when introduced.
Can't
To
hear you.
present Mr. Chris Goodfellow and his Dennis team.
To congratulate all the inductees. Also like to take a big thrill out of the fact that all of them ran track at Apponequet, which makes it kind of special and gratifying. Back in the 80s, we experienced a run of state champions. It started in 1987 and went on year after year after year after year. Our next inductee was part of that gold medal seasons that went on for 4 or 5 years. Chris was state champion in 1989. He was also a silver medalist in the New England that year. He's the indoor school record holder in the shot put. He was a Globe Herald All-Star. Also won the highest academic award for athletes at Apponequet. But one of the neat things that happened for Chris and for me is when you're a head coach, you get all the credit. You get the credits for the wins, you get credit, you get the name in the paper and all of that fuzzy stuff that goes with it. And in track, you very often have really terrific assistants. And in the case of Chris's run at Apponequet, he had an outstanding assistant who was our throw coach at the time. It also happened to be his dad. And George Goodfellow was an outstanding throw coach for us for those several years he was with our program. And I can't imagine a greater feeling, yes I can, because my son won a state championship 2 years before Chris. To have that kind of experience as a coach and as a father, it was just an overwhelming experience for any family. But tonight's first inductee, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Chris Goodfellow.
Hello, everyone. Kind of difficult to follow such a good introduction. I spent a lot of time trying to think of a story that I could tell you that related, my time of athletics at Apponequet that you'd find interesting. But I don't think too many people would think that the shot put is too interesting. It takes all of half a second to make a throw. By the time this whole presentation is done, I could have competed 600 times. There's just not a lot of excitement in it, but I did want to take the opportunity to thank the committee, and I really do appreciate being honored in this way. It really is a tremendous thing. My time of athletics at Apponequet were some of the best memories that I've had throughout my entire life. I still tell some of the stories, when people are silly enough to ask. But it really is a great honor, and as Coach Tebow said, we had an outstanding coaching staff. From Coach Tebow to my father, who's been my coach for football and track since I was little, playing with the couch cushions at home, learning how to tackle. I don't think my mom was too happy about it, but and of course we didn't realize that's what we were doing at the time, but it started from a very young age. But at any rate, I do really appreciate it. It is quite an honor, and it is good to see a lot of the same faces that I remember back in high school, even Principal Seamus. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ms. Daniela Raffaella Paparo, Mrs. Christy Falzo.
Hopefully you can hear me. So Wednesday I didn't even have a voice. This is good progress. Of course, my third graders love that when they found out their teacher didn't have a voice. It's a great honor for me to introduce the next two candidates, Daniela Raffaella Paparo, the class of 1992. During our Hall of Fame meetings, I was accused of typos several times and possibly giving wrong information. But it's true. I did find two candidates who were both involved in field hockey, basketball, winter track, and softball. Were three-time SEC champs in softball, won the state title in 1992, received all scholastic from the Boston Globe, Boston Herald, Brockton Enterprise, and were voted Apponequet's class of 1992 outstanding female athletes. They then go on to Merrimack College to play field hockey and softball. And in softball, they win the NCAA championship in 1994, be two-year captains, four-time All-Americans, share the award of Northeast 10 Rookie and Player of the Year, be named to the All-New England team, and be Merrimack's co-female athlete of the year. If that's not enough, here's more. They're both elementary school adjustment counselors in Rentham, and reside in Berkeley on the same street with their families, two different husbands.
Same here.
Yes, they're the Paparo twins, and when it comes to sports, the impact on the playing field was pretty much identical. They made all the players around them better, and they quickly earned the respect of the opposing teams. So many times the opposing teams would shake with fear as one twin got up to bat, only to soon then want to pass out from fear when another was standing on deck. As a former Apponequet softball player, I always looked up to the twins for the people that they are. They truly are the nicest people you'll ever meet, who play with much determination and voice. I was very fortunate to share the 1992 state title with them, and I couldn't have asked for better teammates. Coach Cindy Cuthbertson and Coach Harry Lowe summed it up as, Coach Cuthbertson said, they are outstanding athletes, people, and friends. They are truly deserving of this honor. And Coach Lowe said, the Paparo twins were not only great softball players, but they were great human beings that anyone would be proud to say that they are their daughters. They definitely belong to the Apponequet Hall of Fame. Even though Daniela and Raffaella have many extraordinary similarities, they certainly do have several amazing individual accomplishments as well. First, I'll start with Daniela. In field hockey, she was a 3-year varsity starter from 1999 to 1992. Using her power as a midfielder, she scored 18 goals and had 13 assists. She then took this power into winter track, earning herself a varsity letter and qualifying for the state tournament in the shot put, an event that at one time she held the school record. However, softball was where she really dominated. Coach Lowe stated that she batted leadoff because she was one of his best ever hitters for average and power. She batted .415 and had an on-base percentage of .539. In addition to the damage she did at the plate, she was a force to be reckoned with on the mound. In 220 innings, she had 209 strikeouts, a 33-4 record, and an ERA of .63. Even though the stats speak for themselves, I can personally tell you that Daniela's accomplishments left many of the women speechless and asking themselves, what just happened? What happened is that they played against the future Hall of Famer. After hearing all the success that Daniela had at Apponequet, it's hard to believe that opponents had to face another who was just as dangerous on the playing field. Raffaella was known as being a quiet leader who led by example on and off the field. In field hockey, she was a 3-year varsity starter, playing both forward and midfield. She scored 13 goals, had 15 assists, and was an SEC All-Star her senior year. She earned a varsity letter in basketball, playing guard, and another in winter track. On the softball field, Raffaella was known as one of the best pure hitters in the state. With 10 home runs, 72 RBIs, and only 6 strikeouts, she led the team with a .512 batting average. And she batted second in the lineup, right after her sister Daniela. Coach Lowe stated that Raffaella was by far the best center fielder he had ever coached. He went on to say, if any opposing team ran on her, we all had smiles on our faces because we knew what the outcome would be, and that was for sure. Plus, in the 39 innings that she pitched, she gave up no earned runs and had a record of 7-0. Whether on the mound, in center field, or at the plate, Raffaella was overpowering. Thriving on competition, she continues to feel it now as she watches her children play sports. While other parents are reading or socializing at the games, Raffaella, and Daniela too, are running up and down on the field with their children or at the edge of their seats, feeling like they're in the games with them. I am now very proud to introduce to you Daniela and Raffaella.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you for everyone on the Hall of Fame committee for putting this night together. Daniela and I were talking about tonight and wanted to be sure that we recognize a coach we never had the opportunity to play for, but was truly a pioneer for the sport of softball. And as I'm sure many of you know, that coach is Peter Looney. He was a gift to the softball world, and we will always remember him for that. We would also like to recognize the coaches that have supported us and went above and beyond to help us be successful athletes. There's a whole list from when we were very young, but I'm going to stick with who's here tonight. Cindy Preverson, thank you. Bob Marshall, Dennis Tebow, and Bob Woodward. Lastly, a special thank you goes to a woman that never played a sport, but continues to coach us every day, and that is our mother. Tonight is really her night, don't cry. Because it is only because of her that we actually had an opportunity to play sports. My father, whom we love very much, he's actually out of town tonight, so he couldn't be here. And many of you don't know him, and I will explain to you why. My father grew up in a very small rural town in Italy. It was literally on the side of a mountain. He came to this country in his late 20s and met my mom, and the rest is history. Myself, Daniela, and our younger sister Elisa, who's watching our 4 children tonight. Hopefully everything's going okay there. My father had very strong old-fashioned values and opinions of how he wanted his Italian daughters to grow up. Let's just say sports were never part of the equation. When we became interested in softball at the age of 7, my mother would actually sneak us to our games and practices. He worked very long hours. He's a self-employed mason, and he's a very hard worker, and he would work from sun up till sundown, Monday through Saturday. But he did not want us playing sports. So my mother snuck us out. For a few years, he did not know that we played sports. As we became more serious, it was hard to kind of pull it off, and we had to tell him that we were playing sports. We were involved in summer leagues and tournaments, which were Saturday and Sunday was the day that he was home, so we had to break the news and the big secret to him. I can still hear him and my mother talking, and my father would say, I don't want our girls to play sports. They need to cook, clean, and learn how to be a good wife. I kid you not. It was almost like he was stuck in a time capsule. After after games or tournaments, he would literally, I know which chair I sat in. We would have to sit in our shorts, and he would have to inspect our legs, because he would say, and I kid you not, you will never find a good man if you have scars on your legs. You can't make this stuff up. To make a long story short, we went on to play softball, field hockey, basketball, and winter track. My father never attended any of our sporting events until our senior year in high school, and he went to a softball game. I think this was purely out of curiosity because he loved the sports page, and some of you may remember that we did make the sport page a few times. And some of his friends and people that he worked with would ask him, your daughters are playing really well, and he would say, I don't know what you're talking about, and keep working. So I think it was really out of curiosity. We ended up coming to our games, and we didn't feel bad that my father, didn't go to most of our games. I think from age 7, probably until I think we were 16 when he first attended the sporting event, because we knew he was working hard, and this was just his way. And my mother was always there, very quietly, cheering us on at every game that we've ever been to. We went on to play softball and field hockey at Merrimack College. My father began coming to our college games, and he was amazed at the talent on our team. I can still remember him coming to me in his little broken Italian accent. I had no idea that women could be so competitive. And it was at that point where he finally realized that we enjoyed playing sports. Our sophomore year, we went to the NCAA tournament out in Kansas. My parents couldn't go. It was pretty expensive, and he was working hard. But they would wait. They knew when our games were, and then they would sit and wait because we would run to the payphones. Now, I'm really updating myself because I don't think those even exist anymore. And we would make a collect call, and they would wait to hear if we won or not. It does sound cliche, but when we went out to Kansas, we were truly just honored to be in the Final Six. We were the only team from the Northeast, and that darn California team made fun of us because we were the only team with polyester, long pant uniforms, and we were really almost like the joke of the tournament. But lo and behold, we won 4 games straight, and we had to beat California for a second time in the finals, and we did. And I can still remember running to the payphone, and I knew my parents were waiting. And I took care of my father in the background, and I said, we won. I said, we're the #1 team in the country. And I could still hear my father screaming from excitement after that. I can still hear it. So thank you, Mom, for hanging in there and helping us transform my father into a more modern big man. This is like chapter 2. Competitive sports were part of our lives up through Merrimack College, where we lived together and played field hockey together and softball. This is where my sister met her husband, Mike Nugent, who was an amazing athlete, playing center for the Warriors at a whopping 6'8" tall. I'm sure some of you may have noticed it today. We went on to play softball in the summers with Mr. Hunt and Mr. Arkin, and we also helped coach play softball. We continued to play summer ball for the next 10 years. So as you can imagine, as the years passed, the other athletes we played against in the summer were looking younger and younger. During this time frame, I met my husband, Jack Taylor, who was also a fantastic athlete. I played baseball for the Keep League and spent 4 years down in Florida playing golf. Mike and Raffaella had their first son, Joseph, back in the spring of 2004. We played softball that summer. It was a little juggling, but my parents were a huge help. The following spring, Jack and I had our first son, Cole, and that summer we played softball for our final season. We decided to bow out gracefully before any traumatic injuries occurred, or even worse, before we were talking about like poor Tim Wakefield. I still think he could have played one more year. The clincher for this decision came when our teammates were cheering for us and saying, "Go, Mom!" Truth be told, some of the girls on the other teams were young enough to be our children. 1 year and a day after Cole was born, Mike and Raffaella had their daughter Bella, and a year and a half later came our son Dominic, or as we refer to him as the Destroyer, being the youngest of 4 is easy. Currently our children are 8, 7, 6, and almost 5. We live on the same street as Christy said, and we both work at the elementary school and run the most adjustment concerts. We no longer compete competitively, aside from intense family games of wiffle ball, soccer, kickball, flag football, and tag. There are cheers and protests when someone gets up. We come for an error. If you're out, and not everybody gets a trophy. We're on the sidelines now, cheering all 4 of our children on. And yes, we are those parents who are pacing and occasionally screaming with excitement. As much as we miss playing on a team, watching our kids play sports competitively has been the highlight of our lives. Every step our children take on the athletic field is a gift to watch. It's not easy. It's not only fun teaching them fundamental skills, but also how to be a team player and always give 110%, even if it is in the backyard. Those of you who don't know us well may be surprised at all the things my sister and I have done together. Those of you who have known us for 25 plus years, and I know there are plenty of you in this room that have, may think, yeah, I figured this would be their future. In closing, my mom would say our personalities are very different. I think Raffaella said it best. If she didn't have me in her life, I would be in a convent. If I didn't have her, I would be in jail. Congratulations to all the other inductees, and thanks again to the committee and all those who made tonight possible.
To present, this is Maureen Kenney Carlson, Mr. Robert Papara.
Tough act to follow. I'm not that funny, so my head's right everything down because I'm finding out what it is to get over it. I can't remember a damn thing. Look at yours. I really didn't know how to start a letter praising Maureen for her ethics in tennis. Instead, I referred to the Boston Globe and the article that was written about her when she received her Richard J. Phelps Scholar Athlete Award. Getting into the Boston Globe is not easy. They don't know there's a South Coast in Massachusetts. They talk about everybody else except the South Coast. Maureen was an extraordinary student. She was ranked first in her class. She was a 4-year member of the Student Council and was president of her class for 3 years. Maureen was also a member of the National Honor Society, scored 1,340 points on her SATs, and she was also class valedictorian. Sounds busy, but there's a lot more. Maureen was the team MVP in tennis, as well as the South Coast Conference All-Star. She attained her 4-year single record of 42-6 by her mental toughness. Maureen was also a tutor for 2 special needs students. In her own words, that experience taught me a lot about life. Special need kids can grasp the same things. They just need a little more time to understand the lessons. Then I went to the Brockton Enterprise. The headline, Lakeville's Kenny, a special person. I'm sure your parents already knew that. Despite her time on the court and her schoolwork and her tutoring of special needs students, she also worked with senior citizens and held study groups at her home in physics and math. She also had time to learn how to play the trumpet. You don't still play, do you? I have 3 kids, I can tell. Why? Okay. Her most memorable match in mine was when she was a sophomore. She ran into this tennis wizard from Old Rochester named Courtney Howe. Now, Maureen was excellent as a tennis player as a freshman. The other girl was taught by her father since she was 5. They have a court in their backyard. He teaches girls to play tennis as young as that. Okay, and they always have a strong program to the point where they were always 16-0,
and we were always 14-2. It was ridiculous. Finally, it was broken. Also, let me add that Courtney Home finished her high school career 59-1. So, she also played a couple of other very tough opponents. One was a James student from Croatia. This girl had a bigger serve than most boys. She was destined to play tennis. Maureen beat her the first time they played. The second time they played, the other girl had just a little bit more of an edge. But still, tennis matches like that build character, even on top of what she already had. The girl's name from Croatia was Ida Serovic. Maureen dropped the first set 5-7. I remember talking to her at intermission in between as they walked by. It's the only time you can coach tennis, which is absolutely ridiculous. The person playing tennis should be able to hear their coach on the court when they make mistakes and correct them, just like in any other sport. Basketball, you hear the coach all the time coaching the kids, not tennis. Maureen finished her senior year at 16-1. Now, as most of you probably know, Maureen earned the full ride to Villanova, not because of her tennis, but because of her brain. Her academic achievements were tremendous. She was a walk-on tennis player, made the team at Villanova, a Division I school. I mean, they recruit kids from all over the world, not just the country. She made the team. In her second year, she dropped out of the tennis program for just 1 year, but when she came back big. She had a record of 11-5 at number 4 and 5 singles and 10-2 in doubles. She was named the Villanova team co-captain and posted an overall record of 12-6 at number 6 singles. For her efforts, she was the recipient of the Coach's Award for Outstanding Athletic Achievement. Not too bad for a walk-on. According to the statements that I made before, back in 1999, I said I have not met anyone in my 23 years of coaching who deserves a higher recommendation than Maureen. She's definitely a person of integrity, strong convictions, is self-assured and confident, and provides an example to others with their positive self-esteem, according to Peter Abraham. Today, after 30 years of coaching, I have yet to meet someone up to her standards. I present Maureen Kenny.
He always wanted us to be ready for anything. And we were certainly ready for very hard hit shots after his practices. But he also wanted us to have fun. He always seemed to know the right thing to say to us, even though there was very little time to talk. But he also gave us the right nod as well. I was always impressed by how much he knew about us. And it wasn't until my senior year that I figured out his secret. On the way home from the match, one of my teammates, I think it was Meredith Murray or Christine Marshall, said something funny in the way back seat. And Coach in the driver's seat laughed out loud. And we looked up in horror. Because, he heard all of the tennis team gossip. And that's how he knew how to coach. And so he taught us a very good lesson in leadership, listening. A year ago, I moved to Texas, And through the stress of moving 3 kids and starting a very new demanding job, so many times my mind has brought me back to sports, high school sports, and everything that I have learned from those days. It's just, you know, you get back up and you try again and you keep going and you fight for the win. And so I'd like to thank everyone here for all that, you know, I have learned, and it's really helped me in my life. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for all that they do to keep these great memories alive, and for our coaches and teachers and parents who make the Apponequet athletic legacy thrive. Mom and Dad, my mom can't be here, she's home with my sick daughter, but my mom and Dad, thank you, you've been a tremendous support for me, and all that I've done. And I'll never forget how good it felt to have your support at every track meet and every tennis match. From keeping track of all my stats, to climbing the bleachers to get the best shot of my race, and also for sitting in the freezing cold early spring, bundled up with all the other parents for the tennis matches. So thank you. As I look over here in attendance, just a word of recognition. My Uncle Dave, the best tennis pro on the Cape, he coached me after I graduated high school, and it's the reason why I got on the team at Villanova. He also, you know, along with Coach Robity, taught me that the game was as much mental as it is physical. My other relatives here who always continue to support me, thank you. And my Uncle George is here. He's a fellow Hall of Famer from Connecticut. Also Beth Marshall, fellow teammate from the '93 undefeated season. Coach Tebow. I don't know if you remember, but one time Missy Andrade and I were running along, and you drove by and you saw us standing there with sticks and rocks in our hands because we're trying to get by an unfriendly dog. Well, you'll be happy to know that both of us own dogs. And I go for a run with my dog every morning. So thank you all very much. This is a complete honor, especially for the other athletes to stand here next to you. It's amazing. So thank you very much.
Is Stacey Conant. Actually, her mother will receive the award, Mr. Robert.
It's a long one. A great refreshment. I know Dave has a hook. And a couple of warning signs. 5 minutes. Shut up. Move on.
You're doing great.
Dan Rose, who's the head coach, couldn't be here tonight because of the shift in days that we're going to have your board. He's tied up with refereeing, and if you don't answer the phone, they don't call you again. And it's very difficult. So he's retired, and he's been doing that for quite a while. Stacey lives in Washington. When she was first nominated and selected to be in the Hall of Fame, I called her and she just couldn't make it home in time. Since then, the committee has, in the past, awarded memberships to people who just couldn't get here. I mean, Washington to Lakeville is a long walk. Just listen to why she was nominated. She was a 4-year starter, 2-time captain of the team, 3-time SEC All-Star, 4-time team MVP. Let's see. In 1998, she received the Senior MVP Award as voted by the coaches. 98 SEC title record of 19-1. She lost in the finals of the State Division II final. Now that's pretty far for a small Lakeville Freetown team. She also played volleyball, where she was a 4-year starter. She was captain, an SEC All-Star,
the program's leading spiker and the team MVP. Well, going back to her basketball achievements, the final 2 years of her career, she led the team to a 37-5 record, including return and play. She is the all-time leading scorer, male or female, in Apponequet history, with 1,343 points. She's also the only player to reach 1,000 points in her junior year. For career rebounds, she had 763, so she's fourth all-time rebounders. And she averaged 9.1 rebounds a game. That's pretty darn good for a kid who's a shooter. You know, when you watch kids play basketball, very seldom do they ever follow their own shot. They just think it's going to go in. All stats are extremely accurate because the coaching staff compiled all the game stats of the game films. She also had 264 career block shots, which she averaged 3.2 a game, and is second on the list all time. 70% career shooter from the free throw line. She was a 45% shooter from the floor, and she only took 14.1 shots a game. She averaged 16.1 points, so figure that out, 14 points, and only taking 14 shots. I take more than that in a quarter. She scored double figures 72 out of 81 career games. There was one special note. In team practice, we used to have a drill where the kids line up at all the baskets in the gym. So there's 6 baskets. We figure there's 4 or 5 kids at each basket. And you stayed at the basket until you missed. And then you would move on to another basket. Well, she ended up shooting 82 consecutive free throws. That's pretty good. You know? I mean, even in the pros, that's a hell of a couple. Let's see. She was second in the South Coast League free throw champion. As a senior, she received the champion shooting perfect 25 for 25 at a neutral site. It was a state program. Stacey was only one of 3 other girls in the entire state to attend a Boston Celtics practice, and all 4 girls got to meet every member of the team. She was highly recruited her senior year, finally accepting a full basketball scholarship to Bryant University. So, if I could have Mrs. Conant come up and see if we have 4.
Good evening. I'm very happy to accept this award on my daughter's behalf. Stacey's very disappointed that she couldn't be with us tonight, but as Coach said, Washington State is a long walk. She wants me to let everyone know that she's very honored, appreciative, and humbled by this recognition of her achievements. She wants to express her sincere thanks and appreciation to the Hall of Fame Committee, Coach Lanyon, Coach Rose, and Coach Robidoux, all her team members, her school, and the town of Lakeville for all the support, guidance, and friendship which paved the way to her athletic success. Stacey always enjoyed sports. She never felt she had any special talent. She just loved playing. According to her, she was just one member of the team. She was always an unselfish player, and she gave her all in all her games. She today is still an avid sports enthusiast. While juggling her career as a teacher at Bright Horizons in her home life, she enjoys cooking, camping, and relishes her time on the golf courses in Washington State, where she's participated in several tournaments. In closing, just let me once again extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who helped make this recognition possible. She has made me proud beyond words, and Stacey will always cherish this honor. Thank you.
Sorry, I'd just like to add something. I am Stacey's nephew, Robert, and this is a note from her. I would like to take this time to recognize the most important and inspiring person in my life, my mom, Trudy Conant. I know how often I took you for granted when I was growing up. I always assumed you'd be there when I needed you, and you always were. But I never really thought about that. I never really thought about what that meant until I got older and began to realize how often your time and energy was devoted to me. So now, for all the times I didn't say it before, thank you, Mom. I love you so very much.
Wow. To present Ms. Beth Smith, Mr. G-Ball.
As I said earlier, in 1959 when Apponequet opened, I was there opening day along with Joe. I was a sophomore, and I've seen everyone that's come through that school that was a great athlete. I think of people like Tim Terry, who was one of our first Hall of Famers. He was a teammate of mine when I was a student at Apponequet. And then people like Ken Coster and Donald Seifert, Paul Chase, just tremendous athletes. And then in 1986, I had an opportunity to coach a young woman named Jana Venice. And at the time, I would say to people, this is the greatest athlete this school has ever produced. Man, woman, whatever. She was just, she could do and did everything. And then in 1998, this young woman walked into the door and turned the Apponequet world, track world especially, also turned Cindy's world totally upside down. Beth won everything she did. We would take her to meets. She would win everything in the league, everything in the class. She won 4 state championships, 2 New England championships. And it was just phenomenal. One time after another, we witnessed this incredible athletic achievement. And as I had said earlier, when Chris had the opportunity to have George Goodfellow as his assistant, Beth had that same privilege with Al Bachman, who was her hurdle coach. Al did a fantastic job with Beth, as did Cindy with her program. The finest achievement for Beth occurred when she was a senior, after she had accomplished everything in the state, accomplished Globe, Herald, Standard Time Athlete of the Year. We took it to the national championships in Bronx, New York, to the men's pentathlon, which is a 5-event evening. And there was a collection of women there that were just an awesome physical sight. And lo and behold, our little girl from Lakeville comes home with a bronze medal. And that was the beginning of the next stage in her life. We went that spring to North Carolina to the national championships, and in her heat was an all Ivy League heat, and she placed 5th in the United States. So we're not talking about success on the local level here. We're talking about a national caliber athlete. But my favorite memory of all of the time that when Beth was with us was Steve Gardner, who used to coach at Apponequet many years ago, and then coached at New Bedford High for years, and now he's the head coach of UMass Dartmouth, used to call all the coaches and say, what's the best athlete you got at 100 meters? And you'd give them a time, and you'd say, oh, well, there's a youngster over at Dartmouth that's faster, or there's a youngster at Wareham that's faster. And my wife, who did coach at the time in Goodfellow, and I got up one Sunday morning, and the area best that Steve Gardner would put together would come out every Sunday in the Standard Times. And she's sitting there and she's laughing, and I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "Well, take a listen to this. Area best 100 meters, Beth Smith, Apponequet High School. Area best 200 meters, Beth Smith, Apponequet High School. Area best 400 meters, Beth Smith. 800 meters, Beth Smith. Long jump, Beth Smith. Triple jump, Beth Smith. 100-meter hurdles, Beth Smith." You get the story, what's going on, right? 4x100, Beth Smith. 400, Beth Smith. And, you know, my wife left to me, she says, "Why don't you just stick them in a mile one day and see what happens?" She said, "You know, just for the joke of it." And I said, "No, we can't do that." But that was the kind of experience we were having at the time. And so, as much as I enjoyed and was thrilled by the time I had with Janet Venice and what a wonderful athlete she was, I want to introduce to you the greatest athlete this school has ever had, Miss Beth Smith.
Thank you, Coach Hubel, for those unbelievable words. I'll pay you for those later. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. A special thanks to all the Hall of Fame committee members for supporting my nomination. I'm just blown away that after so many years you still think so highly of me. It's an unbelievable honor, and I feel very blessed, so thank you. Also want to extend a very heartfelt congratulations to the other inductees tonight. I really believe I'm in the presence of greatness. The Papara twins and Stacey Conant, they were legends when I was going through school. I heard all the stories about Janet Venice, so you were always something for us to look up to, and really legends in your own time. So it's a great honor for me to be with you tonight. So thank you. When I was meandering down memory lane, thinking about what I would say tonight, one thing became quite clear, and that was that this night, despite the balloons and the corsage, this is about all of you. It's about me. I did some really great things in high school. You just heard about some of them, but make no mistake, as the old adage goes, I stood on the shoulders of some unbelievable people. I stood on the shoulders of giants. Some of those giants are here with me tonight. My family were unbelievable support for me. My mom and my sisters, Amy and Lori, are here tonight. My Uncle Paul, who's not able to be here tonight, but drove me to every track meet from New Bedford up to Portland, Maine, everywhere in between. They were always supportive, never overbearing, always made sure that I had what I needed, made sure my lucky t-shirt was clean, and dealt with the wrath that would occur when it was not clean. They encouraged me, they rooted for me, they're my biggest fans. So thank you. I love you so very much, my family. I stood too on the shoulders of unbelievable coaches, and I had the privilege of speaking at Coach Cindy Cuthbertson's retirement party just a few weeks ago, and I told the story. I'm going to tell it again because it's a good one for me. But we would run sprints at the end of practice every day, just dead tired, 10 or 15 sprints, whatever punishment she had in mind that day. And we'd line up on the edge of the football field and hear the whistle blow and go to take off, and I'd feel this resistance behind me. And she'd be holding my shirt when I turned around and let people go 25, 30 yards ahead before she'd let me go. And it was all a joke. Everybody laughed except me. But you look back now and you think what an unbelievable even coaching strategy that is. That she always knew that I had talent, and she recognized I had talent, but she never let me rest on that ever. And every inch I got on the field, every assist, every goal, she made sure I worked for that. So thank you. It means a lot. Coach Shiva mentioned Al Bachman, who was my hurdling coach, and prior to my senior year, when I started winning more and more races, the Standard Time said I looked like a train wreck going through the air. So without him, I would not have corrected any of that. He was always there with me weeks after the other student athletes were done for the year, and I had state meet, New England's, and the Nationals. I was still out there for weeks, and he was out there with me, just the two of us. And he was always there. My freshman year, I qualified for the state coaches meet, and I had planned to wear my clunky old sneakers to the meet, and he told me, you don't have racing spikes, we need flats, you can't go without flats. So he threw me in the car and we went up to Dave's Sporting Goods in Fairhaven, and I got fitted for my first racing spikes. And I kept those all 4 years that I went to school, and I still have them, and it's just an homage to a tremendous coach. He taught me what a great coach is certainly, and he made me a great hurdler. Coach Tebow, unbelievable coach, a mentor for me, like a dad to me. This man saw talents in me that other people didn't. He worked with me to nurture them. In the spring of my senior year, in order to give me an opportunity to break the school record in the 400 meters, he put me in a heat of all boys. And there we went, and I got my record in the craziest, most hyped up race I think I've ever run in. It's a great memory of mine. Also my senior year, as Coach mentioned, he entered me in the National Pentathlon. He was only one on the planet that didn't seem concerned by the fact that I weighed 115 pounds and had never thrown a shot put before. But he said, you can do it, and we went out to New York City, and the shot put actually went quite well, and I went home with third place in the nation on that. All because he had a hunch that it would go well. He had the confidence and abilities that I didn't know I had, and I walked away with that bronze largely because of you. So thank you. While we're on that subject, I went to New York City, I went to Pennsylvania, North Carolina, I believe probably all on the school's dime. So those are opportunities that I absolutely thank the school for, I thank Lakeville for, in this community. It was tremendous to be able to travel and do those things. So thank you for those opportunities. I also stood on the shoulders of teammates. Very fun, tremendously talented people, some of my best friends even now. My teammates' parents, they were there for me too. I remember my sophomore year when I broke my foot, I rolled my ankle pretty badly at the Reggie Lewis Center. My mom's car was probably parked about 3/4 of a mile away, and one of our shot putter dads came over and he threw me on his back, and he carried me about 3/4 of a mile to where my mom's car was parked along the side of the road. He was a big man, but he took care of them. Yeah, that's a long way. So he called me back. So I hope you're seeing a theme here. When I say I stood on the shoulders of giants, I did. Sometimes I hung off of the shoulders of giants too. It really was a community for me. The friends, the coaches, the parents of my teammates as well. Just they were really great. So I didn't do this alone. And this day, this honor is as much for each of you as it is for me. You made me a great athlete, and you gave me confidence that I proudly take with me. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for your support. Have a great rest of the evening.
Mrs. Kathy McGonigal, Mr. Jim Camusio.
Well, I want to congratulate the inductees and thank the Hall of Fame committee, because I know how hard they've worked to keep this alive. The Apponequet Hall of Fame not only pays tribute to outstanding athletes, but also proudly recognizes members of our community who have made significant contributions to the athletic program and to our school community. I was very fortunate that during Kathy McGonigal's time with the Booster organization, I was coaching 3 sports, so she saw me many times asking requests for different types of items that we needed for the athletic department that we weren't getting through our budget. Kathy's a supervisor at Brooks Pharmacy. She moved to Lakeville in 1985. She and her husband, Tim, have 3 sons, all Apponequet graduates. Tim Jr. 98, Patrick 01, and Michael 07. Although Kathy, the West Bridgewater cheerleader, might still gloat that she has fond memories of those Mayflower League Turkey Day wins over Apponequet, this lady is certainly a committed transplant. And on a personal note, I was on the field for 3 of those games that Kathy was cheering on the other side, and I still remember her husband's number 42 running me over a couple of times. I'm sure you remember him too. Kathy's been a very active volunteer on the Lakeville circuit. In many programs, she has served as a member leader of committees with big local impact, the Mothers Club Annual Cranberry Craft Fair, the William DeRoche Memorial Scoreboard at John Pond Softball Park, the Playground Committee, Ted Williams Camp, and the Junior Football and Cheerleading programs. How lucky were we when she decided to follow her oldest son to Apponequet in 1995. In that year, Kathy joined the Athletic Booster Club, and the first long-term commitment she made was to Griffith Field Lighting Committee, a 5-year project that now allows us to utilize that field to its maximum. Unfortunately, with the recent Triple E, we don't use it as much in the fall, but between soccer games, lacrosse games in the spring, we are going to get our use out of it. She worked on the annual football golf tournament, helped resurrect the Turkey Day bonfire, and accepted the reins to the Boosters Club presidency in 2002. Under her leadership, the club increased membership, redefined scholarship requirements, rewrote bylaws, established independent nonprofit status, and oversaw many successful fundraisers. The list of donations doesn't stop with the $28,000 in senior scholarships that were awarded during her tenure. During that time, a new wireless football scoreboard, outfield fences on ball fields, softball pitching machine, storage units and sheds, tennis court windscreens, golf cart for the trainer, athletic awards, championship banners, maintenance of the lights once we put them up, and there's a long list that we can keep going on. Tonight, we are given the opportunity to acknowledge, thank, publicly celebrate Kathy's untiring leadership and dedication to our athletes, our athletic program, facilities, and the Apponequet school community at large. Without these organizations, without our booster group, it would be a very different athletic department at Apponequet. So this award, this recognition, is with great honor. We induct Kathy McGonigal for special recognition into the Apponequet Athletic Hall of Fame. Kathy had the will of a pit bull. Once she put her mind to something, it usually got done. And it was always in the best interest of our student athletes.
It looks like a lot, but it's double spaced and big fonts. I would like to thank the committee for inducting me into the Hall of Fame, and to Jim Cabusio for speaking on my behalf. I never really thought of myself as Hall of Fame worthy. But there are a few people that I need to thank for making my life a lot easier when I was president. To Dave and Madeline Medeiros, they're the people that really deserve all the credit for the lighting on the athletic field. They saw it from the beginning to the end. I only worked on the committee. Mike McGuire was here tonight, was my vice president and always the voice of reason. He brought me down to earth when I started to fly away, which was a lot. The club treasurer, Ray Roskowitz, who I always thought was a financial guru. Whatever Ray said is what we did when it came to money. My secretaries, Beth Hunt and Sue Spailer, for their never-ending assistance with the many club events that were going on. Glenn Forward, who I could always count out for whatever was needed. To Kevin Donnelly for stepping up to take my place when I knew it was time for me to move on. Gary Lincoln and Bob Lilladall for the flexibility to host the many events and the fundraisers the club had during my 6 years as president. Jim Cabusio and the rest of the coaching staff for allowing their teams to participate in the fundraising events. Dave Donnelly and his basketball buddies. For their yearly participation in our Harlem Rocket fundraising basketball game. And I'd also like to thank the members of the Boosters Club for participating in the fundraisers, along with the student athletes. My friends who are here with me tonight, it's been together for a long time, and whenever I needed help, I always counted on one of them. The merchants and the residents of the town who continuously supported the Boosters Club. And last but not least, my husband Tim, my sons Tim, Pat, and Mike. They just rolled their eyes and went with the flow. I have one funny story. It's actually 3 funny stories about our Christmas tree sale. Kind of sticks in my mind because after several years of having the Christmas tree sale at the high school, I knew we had to get a more visible location. And I also knew that we had to increase our sales. So I came up with the idea of moving the sale to the Old Town Hall in Lakeville Center and the brainstorm of selling decorated door wreaths. My girlfriend and I spent all day Friday, the day before the sale, making like 20 or 30 wreaths. And we kept looking at the weather because they kept saying snow. Snow possibly for Saturday, depending on how the storm comes in. We live in New England. The next morning I woke up to my worst nightmare, 1.5 of snow had fallen, which now meant the trees were buried and the Old Town Hall needed to be shoveled out. My husband said, "Don't worry, I'll take the snowblower. Put the snowblower on the back of the truck, get to the Old Town Hall, it won't stop." So I picked up the shovels, started shoveling, looked up, and all my 8 o'clock volunteers were showing up with shovels. My prayers had been answered. So we were up and running and selling trees by 9 o'clock. And this sale was kind of a doozy because later in the day, I had this lady come up to me and say, "Why does your sign says Xmas tree sale?" And I explained to her, we have to pay per letter of the sign. And we don't have enough money to spell out Christmas. So she looked at me, again decided, well, that's not correct. You should be having a Christmas tree sale, not an Xmas tree sale. So, always looking for a donation, I said, "Would you like to buy us a new sign?" I guess not, because they still are using the same sign. And then much later in the day, I had another lady who's fairly well off, because I know who she is. She tried to talk me down on a Christmas tree. And I told her the trees were being sold $10 over cost. And she still went on to say, "I can get it cheaper here, and I can get it cheaper there." And by now the steam's coming out of my ears. So I turned around and I said, "Look, I'm freezing my butt off. This is a fundraiser. If you think you were going to get that tree for cost, you're crazy." So I walked away. She never bought a tree, by the way. And I looked over and I saw my vice president just kind of shaking his head. And he says, "I knew you always had a polite way of telling people to take a hike." Well, I think I've met a lot of nice people. I know we've done a lot of great accomplishments. I had a lot of fun along the way, and I certainly did not expect this special recognition, but I do appreciate this honor and my time spent with the members of the Boosters Club. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Apponequet Hall of Fame 2012 freshman class. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jim Cabusio to accept the Hall of Fame plaques for the school. Jim. Where's Claudia?
Thank you, except for Apponequet Regional High School.
Before closing remarks, I'd like to thank some people. This is Kathy Peterson and the Graphic Communication Design students of Old Colony Regional Vocational School for printing the programs. Lakeville Cable Advisory Media Incorporated for doing tonight's videography. And you'll see this ceremony on Comcast on Channel 95, Verizon Channel 32, Wednesday the 28th at 6 p.m. Also, the Mitchell Memorial Club has discounted and donated the use of their facilities since the year 2000. Thank those folks. Bob Brady, the bartender, has donated his time since 2000. And during that time, Nancy Vaughn and Judy Silva have been waitresses. Kevin Marshall and George Dean have been the dishwashers. Although George is not here tonight, we'll recruit him to wash something somewhere. And for the last several inductions, Sean Paradise has donated his time to help wherever needed, putting food to the buffet, putting away dishes, or even helping the staff. And a special thanks to Scott Brady, also a Hall of Famer, who graciously donated his services in preparing this wonderful meal. They all deserve it. In these towns without volunteers, people who care about our children, our schools, and their community. Wonderful people. On behalf of the Hall of Fame Committee, family, friends, and the citizens of Freetown and Lakeville, I offer congratulations to our 6 athletes and our special awards recipient for their outstanding achievements and dedication to the Apponequet family. Apponequet's history is replete with notables who have made their mark on the athletic field and in unselfish volunteer service on behalf of those athletes and our student body. Tonight, the legends are enhanced, the list of achievement expanded, the bar of excellence raised, and to those who follow, the challenge to excel, heightened by the exemplary examples of our guests of honor who have been recognized this evening. So, as we depart from this place, let us do so with the memory of 7 wonderful people who have, by their dedication to the task, become champions and role models for us all. Good night. God bless all of you. See you at our next Hall of Fame extravaganza in 2014. Sit down, David. The bar is now open and the raffle will commence. All right. Thank you all.